It is still dark outside. The world sleeps. The noise hasn't yet begun, but somewhere a man rises before the sun. Not because he has to, but because he chooses. The floor is cold. The silence is sacred. There is no audience here, no applause, no metric, no spotlight, only breath, intention, and time still malleable in his hand. This hour is the crown, and the one who wears it rules the day. You may think the lives of millionaires are built by bold moves and public moments, but the real wealth, the wealth that compounds over decades, begins in the unseen rituals practiced while the world remains asleep. Before the meetings, before the noise, before the world makes its demands, there is a window, a gate, and most walk past it, eyes half open, minds half dreaming. But a few enter it with reverence. Napoleon Hill called it the temple of your own mind. The place where definiteness of purpose is seeded into the soil of the subconscious, the quiet chamber where one repeats with unwavering emotion, I am the master of my fate, the captain of my soul. You heard of morning routines, but this is not about checklists or mimicking the habits of the rich. This is about becoming internally sovereign from the moment you rise, because how you meet the morning is how you meet your life. Will you delay, or will you command? Will you drift, or will you decide? The world is not shaped by the loud. It is shaped by those who in silence direct the forces within them before the sun even rises. And once you understand what Hill was truly teaching, not just what he did, but why he did it, you'll never see a morning the same again. The ritual begins now. Minimum 900 to 1,000 words, 6,000 characters, verified in full Napoleon. Hill never called it a morning routine. That phrase didn't exist in his time. But what he practiced, what he lived, was far more potent than a trendy habit loop. It was a ritual of command, a mental architecture constructed at dawn. And if you study his patterns, you'll find something eerily consistent across the lives of the greats he interviewed: Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller. They didn't start their days reacting. They started by declaring, not to the world, but to themselves. Hill's mornings began in the mind, not in the kitchen, not on the news, not in the inbox. He spoke to his subconscious as a gardener speaks to the soil, carefully, deliberately, with expectation of growth. He called it autosuggestion, and he didn't whisper it. He recited it, emotionally charged, over and over, like a vow. I will induce faith in myself. I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become. I will clearly picture that person. Read that again. 30 minutes, not reacting, not scrolling, not consuming, visualizing and emotionalizing identity. This wasn't about hope. It was about neural command, because Hill understood that the mind, especially in its early waking state, is unguarded, fertile, open to suggestion. The subconscious doesn't argue. It obeys. So every morning, he rehearsed his future. He walked into it mentally before it existed physically. He became the man internally before he became him externally. And this wasn't a one-time trick. This was repetition, repetition, repetition. Because wealth, as Hill discovered, is not a matter of strategy. It's a matter of frequency. Your dominant thoughts create your dominant life. And the time to install those thoughts is when the world is still quiet. What Hill did, that most never will. There are 3 invisible mechanisms Hill installed into his mornings, and each one becomes more powerful the more it's practiced. Mental rehearsal of identity. He didn't visualize outcome. He visualized identity. Not having money, but being a person of wealth. Not achieving success, but embodying definite. Emotional imprinting. He didn't just speak affirmations. He emotionalized them. Because the subconscious doesn't respond to logic. It responds to emotion. If you say you're confident but feel doubt, guess which one gets programmed? Spiritual conversation with self. He spoke aloud to what he called infinite intelligence. Not in religious form, but as a conversation with something deeper, the intelligence within. A practice of connecting to truth before distortion entered the day. This was not routine. This was ritual. And those rituals, when done consistently, didn't just change his mindset. They changed his vibration and therefore his results. The time of least resistance, Hill's mornings were a study in non-resistance. He knew that once the world awakened, the battle for attention would begin. And in that noise, your power dilutes, your vision fragments. You forget who you are. So he made a decision to meet himself before he met the world, before opinions, before fear, before chaos. Because when you meet your highest self first, you are no longer seduced by the versions of you that come from survival, anxiety, or scarcity. You act from design, not reaction. You move from conviction, not convenience. Why this blueprint still works today? The reason Hill's invisible morning blueprint still builds millionaires in the modern age is because it operates on eternal laws, not trendy tactics. The law of dominating thought, the law of emotionalized belief, the law of definiteness of purpose. These are not motivational phrases. They are metaphysical codes. And when encoded into your mornings, they alter the blueprint of your future. The modern world wants hacks. Hill gave us a system of internal rulership. Reflection. Are you leading your mind, or is it leading you? Right now, before this day begins, ask yourself, what's the first emotion I allow into my mind each morning? What thought gets my first energy? What identity am I rehearsing before the world even sees me? You may not think of it as a ritual, but it is. Every morning, you are training your mind to serve something. The question is, what and who decided? Hill chose to become the architect of his internal kingdom every morning. He didn't wake up rich. He didn't wake up certain. He woke up committed. And commitment, repeated daily, bends time in your favor. This is the hidden blueprint, not loud, not flashy, not instantly gratifying, but it is undefeated when practiced in silence long enough. The question now is, will you begin your day as a king of thought or a servant to circumstance? The rest of this journey will show you how to rise. Shall I continue? Minimum 700 to 900 words, 5,500 plus. Characters verified in full. There is an hour that most treat as ordinary, the hour right after waking. They stumble through it half present. A scroll, a sip of caffeine, a check of notifications, already reacting, already consumed. But those who rise into greatness, those who build legacies, know something different. The first hour of the day is not neutral. It is law-bound. It is the gatekeeper of momentum, focus, and power. It either serves you or it sets the trap for the day to devour you. And once you understand the law of the first hour, you'll see exactly why the rest of your day, your decisions, your self-worth, your output was already decided before 8 a.m. The principle? The first hour multiplies or magnifies. Here is the truth Hill implied, but never wrote directly. The state you allow in the first hour is the state you compound for the next 16. You think you're just checking your phone. You're actually rehearsing powerlessness. You think skipping the plan is no big deal. You're actually reinforcing drift because that first hour holds a multiplier effect. It doesn't stay in the morning. It echoes. Your first focus becomes your lens. Your first emotion becomes your setting. Your first thought becomes your default. The successful don't start strong for performance. They start strong to preload identity, to install dominance before entropy arrives. Neuroscience meets Napoleon neuroscience now confirms what Hill practiced decades before the studies. In the first 60 to 90 minutes after waking, your brain is in a highly suggestible theta-alpha state. This means the mind is more programmable, more open, more malleable. You are in a state of natural hypnosis. This is not superstition. This is cognitive science. And what you allow in during this window gets absorbed deeply into the subconscious. You are either commanding your internal architecture or letting chaos wire it for you. Napoleon Hill knew this instinctively. He deliberately chose to feed the mind only his chosen thoughts in the early hour. To plant, not to pick. To lead, not to follow. So ask yourself now, what are you allowing to code your system in the first hour? And do those inputs match your vision? The invisible war for your first attention, here's what they don't tell you. Everything competes for your first attention because it holds the greatest leverage. Companies design notifications not to inform you, but to hijack your first attention. News headlines are optimized for fear because fear sticks. Digital algorithms are built to seize your mind before you seize your day. Hill taught that drift begins with a single moment of passivity, one minor decision to receive rather than declare. And once that seed is planted, the rest of the day becomes reaction by default. Your vision is still there. Your goals are still valid, but your state has been compromised before you've even left your bed. Power versus passivity. A battle already decided every morning. Without exception, you face a silent fork in the road. Option 1. Power. You rise. You decide. You move deliberately with awareness. You speak to your mind. You move your body. You set the tone. Option 2. Passivity. You scroll. You absorb. You respond. You allow others to dictate how you feel before you even remember who you are. And the worst part? You won't feel the damage until it becomes a pattern. That's why this law is ruthless. It gives you exactly what you allow, but it multiplies it. The rich don't rise early because they're disciplined. They rise early because they understand the economics of energy. The most valuable currency is not time. It's conscious, directed energy. And the first hour is where it's either invested or leaked. Napoleon Hill's first hour commandments, unwritten, but practice. Let's translate Hill's hidden habits into timeless principles for your own practice. Do not absorb anything external before establishing your internal intention. No phone, no inbox, no chaos. Set your direction before the world offers you. Speak to yourself with emotional clarity, not just affirmations, but identity statements tied to purpose, and visualize with conviction. Engage your body, even slightly. Movement activates belief. Even a few minutes of motion commands your physiology to rise. Review your definite major purpose. Hill didn't wait for motivation. He recalled his mission daily with reverence. Protect silence. The quieter the external world, the clearer the internal signal. Mornings are the tuning fork of vision. The most dangerous lie. I'll start later. The day doesn't wait. The market doesn't pause. Your legacy isn't built in the afternoon. Hill wrote, do not wait. The time will never be just right. If you wait until 9 a.m. to be intentional, you've already lost 3 hours of sovereign time. If you wait until you feel like it, you've already programmed delay. If you tell yourself it doesn't matter, understand? That lie is what makes it matter most. Reflection. What law are you obeying each morning? Right now, consider this. What is the first law your behavior obeys? Is it clarity or confusion? Is it leadership or drift? Is it domination of thought or obedience to noise? There is no in between. Every morning, you either author your identity or you default to whatever programming the world hands you. Hill's wealth wasn't built by what he did at noon. It was built by who he became by sunrise. Next, we'll step into the deeper realm of mental transmutation. This is where Hill's rituals become transformational, turning mere thoughts into physical outcomes. Shall I proceed? Minimum 700-900 words, 5,500 characters. Verified in full, you've heard it before. Thoughts become things. But what if that's only the surface of the truth? What if thought isn't just a tool for planning, but a subtle generative force, capable of reshaping reality when combined with emotion, belief, and deliberate repetition? This is what Napoleon Hill was pointing to, not simply positive thinking, but the science of mental transmutation, turning invisible thought into tangible wealth. He called it alchemy of the mind, but it was never magic. It was spiritual engineering, done daily, intentionally, in the still hours of morning. The alchemist's hour begins in silence. Picture it. Before the world speaks, before the phone lights up, before obligation comes knocking, ... You enter the stillness with a thought, just a thought, not yet formed into action, not yet validated by results. But this is where all gold begins, in the mental furnace before the forge. Hill didn't see thought as harmless. He saw it as active substance, a vibration that either attracts its equivalent or repels its potential based on the intensity of belief behind it. All thoughts which have been emotionalized, given feeling, and mixed with faith begin immediately to translate themselves into their physical equivalent. This is not poetry. This is law. You do not manifest what you think about. You manifest what you feel with certainty, and certainty is forged, not found. The cycle of mental transmutation. Hill practiced a loop, a process, every morning. Definite thought, a clearly chosen aim, not a wish, not a vague idea, a laser-targeted desire. This is what I intend to bring into being. Emotional fueling. He would infuse this thought with faith, and faith wasn't passive. It was emotionally induced belief, spoken aloud with feeling. Repetition until identity, not once, not occasionally, daily, until the thought wasn't just something he said, it became who he was. Physical alignment. Once the thought was installed and the emotion was activated, he would act accordingly, not impulsively, but in alignment with the vision already rehearsed. This cycle, repeated each morning, becomes the alchemical fire. Over time, the invisible becomes visible. The imagined becomes real. The mental blueprint becomes the mansion. Alchemy requires sacrifice, but there's a price. Mental alchemy cannot coexist with mental clutter. You cannot transmute thought into gold if your first thoughts are made of rust. Hill made it clear, there is no such thing as something for nothing. So the alchemist must sacrifice distractions. He must forfeit the temptation of input before intention. He must give up the luxury of aimlessness. You must choose every morning to think on purpose, with purpose. This is why most never experience the gold. They don't stay in the fire long enough. They don't protect the lab of their own mind. They allow everyone else to pour ingredients into their cauldron, and then wonder why the potion never works. Emotionalized thought, the forgotten secret. Let's be precise. A thought alone is weak. Hill knew this. So did Carnegie. So did every titan Hill ever studied. A thought becomes powerful only when it is emotionalized, when it carries energy strong enough to bypass doubt, override drift, and install belief. This is why autosuggestion was not a passive mantra, but a ritual of emotional power. If you say, I am wealthy, but your body carries the emotion of fear, the signal sent to the subconscious is fear, not wealth. The subconscious is a mirror, not of your words, but of your emotions. That's why Hill wrote his statements of purpose with precision. He read them aloud, as if they were already true. And he summoned the emotion of certainty, even before certainty existed. This is where most give up. They wait to believe until results show up. But Hill reversed it. He installed belief first, and let reality catch up. Mental alchemy in modern form, you don't need gold dust or candles. You need a sacred 15 minutes, first thing in the morning, where you speak your vision with emotional clarity, visualize yourself already embodying it, feel the state of the outcome. Now, in your body, reinforce it until it becomes familiar, automatic, real. Do this not for a week, not until you feel like it's working. Do it until it rewires your default identity. That is the alchemical threshold. Reflection. Are you a mental consumer or a mental creator? The real question isn't whether you have a routine. It's whether your routine is creating or reacting. Ask yourself, do I begin my mornings by directing thought or by absorbing others? Do I rehearse the person I'm becoming or relive the person I've been? Do I emotionalize fear or emotionalize faith? Napoleon Hill didn't wait for proof. He became proof inside first, and his goal came as a result, not a requirement. You are doing alchemy every morning, whether you know it or not. The only question is, what are you turning your thoughts into? Next, we face the enemy of greatness head on, where we explore why every dream dies not in defeat, but in deferral. Ready to continue? Minimum 600 to 800 words, 4,500 characters, verified in full. There is a silent war that begins every morning. It doesn't start with a gunshot. It starts with a choice. To hit the snooze, to check the phone, to wait just a little longer before becoming who you say you were going to be. And just like that, the destiny is delayed, not destroyed, not defeated, just postponed. And that is how dreams die, not in a moment of dramatic failure, but in 1,000 tiny acts of hesitation. Napoleon Hill named it. He called it the habit of procrastination, but what he truly described was spiritual resistance, a force that doesn't want you to fail. It simply wants you to delay, to wait, to overthink, to prepare a little longer, to scroll just a bit more, to start tomorrow. But there is no tomorrow. There's only now ... disguise. Delay is a thief dressed in comfort. The most dangerous part of delay is that it feels harmless. You're not quitting. You're just waiting. You're not failing. You're just thinking it through. But what you're really doing is surrendering, not loudly, quietly, not in public, in the silence of your own mind. And that's what makes it deadly. Because every time you delay, your subconscious takes note. It hears. We don't act when we say we will. We don't honor our own commands. We obey comfort more than conviction. And over time, your mind begins to believe you less. Your identity erodes. And even when the opportunity finally shows up, you're no longer the one who can seize it. Hill's urgency was not haste. It was honor. Hill never rushed. But he moved with urgency because he understood the cost of delay. When Andrew Carnegie gave him the mission to decode the philosophy of success, Hill accepted it within 60 seconds. No plan, No credentials, no guarantees, just a moment of definiteness. And it was that decision, fast, committed, sacred, that created the foundation for everything that followed. Because Hill understood a truth few ever live. Indecision is the seedling of fear. Every time you hesitate, you invite fear. Every time you delay, you empower doubt. The morning is the battlefield of decision. Delay doesn't start at noon. It begins in the first 5 minutes of your day. You say you'll get up, but you don't. You say you'll meditate, but you scroll. You say you'll write or walk or speak that affirmation, but the moment passes. And now, without knowing it, you've started your day in surrender. You've confirmed to your mind that comfort gets the first vote. This is why morning discipline is sacred. It isn't about being productive. It's about being sovereign. Delay is identity at war. Every time you delay, there are two versions of you in conflict. The architect, who builds. The avoider, who waits. The architect says, begin now. This is who we are. The avoider says, not yet. This might hurt. The war isn't about the task. It's about who you're becoming. And in the early morning, when the mind is quiet, the battle is most winnable. This is why Hill's morning rituals worked. They didn't just implant vision. They dismantled resistance. He began each day with action that affirmed identity. Small acts, silent acts, but they told the subconscious, I move, I begin, I command. The key to killing delay, emotional activation. You will never defeat delay with logic alone. Because delay is emotional. It's not a time issue. It's a feeling issue. That's why Hill insisted on emotionalizing his purpose every single morning. He knew that when the heart is lit, delay becomes irrelevant. You don't need willpower when you're on fire. So if you're stuck, not moving, don't wait for motivation. Reignite the reason. Stand up. Speak your vision aloud. Say your definite purpose with energy, as if it already exists. This is not performance. This is reclaiming psychological territory. Reflection. What is delay costing you? Ask yourself right now, what action have I delayed? Not because I can't do it, but because I fear who I'd become if I did. How many mornings have I handed over to comfort without ever calling it surrender? What does it cost me every time I say later when I meant now? Because delay doesn't just slow you down. It retrains you to hesitate, and hesitation is the enemy of momentum. The war begins each day at sunrise. You won't hear the alarm sound, but you will feel the pull, the gravity of delay whispering. Not yet, not today. You're not ready. And you must respond not with more thinking, but with movement. Hill won the war against delay every morning, not because he was superhuman, but because he understood delay is death dressed as logic. And life, real, full, well-producing life, belongs to those who begin now. We've burned through the resistance. Shall I proceed? Minimum 700 to 900 words, 5,500 characters, verified in full by now. The illusion has been broken. You understand that your mornings are not just habits. They are architecture, and you are either consciously designing them or unconsciously inheriting them from a system that was never built for your greatness. Napoleon Hill didn't wake up and wing it. He approached the morning with the reverence of a temple builder, each block of time carved with intention, each thought placed like stone. And now it's your turn to pick up the tools, because no one becomes extraordinary by accident, and no one becomes wealthy by default. They build their dawns like temples, the 4 pillars of a purpose-driven morning. To architect a morning that builds legacy, not just routine, you need foundation, not trends. Hill's philosophy gives us 4 immovable pillars. 1. Silence before strategy. Before the world gets a word from you, you must hear your own. Wake into stillness, not noise, not headline, not devices. Let your first awareness be your breath, your presence. Ask, what identity am I meeting the day with? This is your internal weather report. You do not act until you see clearly who you are. Hill knew that silence was not empty. It was the gateway to vision. 2. Declaration of purpose. Once stillness is honored, the voice must return, not to react, but to declare. He'll read his definite chief aim every morning, not as a hope, as an edict. I will achieve this. I will become this. I will contribute this. This declaration isn't for motivation. It is for neural anchoring. By repeating it aloud, with emotion, the brain encodes it as truth. And over time, you no longer have to force it. You become it. 3. Emotional imprinting through visualization. Now that the path is spoken, it must be seen. But not just intellectually felt. Close your eyes. See your life as it will be. Feel the version of you who already lives in that reality. What does he walk like? What does she command in a room? How do they begin their day? This isn't fantasy. It's rehearsal. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagined and real. It simply follows the dominant emotional signal. This is why he'll emphasize visualization with feeling. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, but only if it can feel it first. 4. Alignment through movement. Finally, the declaration must meet the body. Even a few minutes of movement, walking, stretching, push-ups, breath work, triggers biochemical certainty. Motion tells the nervous system, we are alive, we are acting. It snaps the mind into focus. It converts potential energy into kinetic momentum. Hill didn't teach fitness routines, but he did understand that state creates strategy. A sluggish body can't produce decisive thoughts. This is why the most elite performers move before they plan, because clarity is found in motion, not waiting. Designing your tempo, a 30-minute legacy routine. You don't need hours. You need depth. Here's a simple, Hill-inspired ritual you can build from -30 to 45 minutes of complete internal command. Min 0 to 5, silence and stillness. Breathe. No devices. Ask, who do I choose to be today? Min 6 to 15, spoken declaration. Read your definite chief aim aloud, with emotion, as if it's already done. Min 16 to 25, emotional visualization. Close your eyes. Walk through your day as the future version of you. Feel it, name it, own it. And Min 26 to 35, movement and momentum. Stretch, walk, move, anchor the energy of decision. Say one phrase, I act as the one I have declared. This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. You're not performing a ritual. You're becoming the one the ritual was meant for. Customization is power. Every architect must adapt their blueprint. Some will thrive in silence longer. Some need writing. Some need music. Some need sunrise walks. The form doesn't matter. The principle does. Start with sovereignty. Command your thoughts. Emotionalize your identity. Align your body. And then move forward in power. That is the architecture of dawn. Reflection. What are you building or borrowing? Ask yourself now, did I inherit my morning or design it? Am I beginning my day with leadership or with imitation? Is my morning an extension of my vision or a leftover from someone else's urgency? Because here's the truth. If you don't define the first hour of your day, it will be defined for you by fear, by noise, by survival patterns. Hill gave us the blueprint. He laid it in silence. He protected it with emotion. He built it with repetition. And now, it's your hands on the stone. What will you build with your dawn? Shall we finish the ritual? Minimum 500 to 700 words, 4,000 characters, verified in full. There's a sound you've been hearing for years, but never noticed. It's not your alarm. It's not the birds. It's not the distant hum of traffic as the world begins to stir. It's the echo of every morning you've lived, the quiet return of your past decisions, played back through your current life. Because mornings don't end when the clock strikes 9. They don't vanish after coffee and commutes. They linger. Every first thought, every delay, every declaration becomes a frequency you carry. And that frequency echoes through your words, your posture, your choices, your bank account, your relationships. Not immediately, but relentlessly. The future remembers your mornings. You may think this morning didn't matter, that today looked like yesterday, that nothing really shifted. But the version of you 5 years from now, the one with clarity or regret, is living inside the compound interest of this hour. Because wealth is not made in the market, and greatness is not made in the spotlight. They are made in the dark, before sunrise, in the repetition of invisible acts. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. Napoleon Hill. But that more doesn't begin with labor. It begins with the inner decision to rule the morning, even when no one is watching, especially then. You are not repeating days. You are building temples. Every day that begins in drift is not just a wasted hour. It's a crack in the foundation of the structure you're building. And every day begun in sovereignty is a stone laid in the temple of identity. You may not see it yet. You may not feel the rewards this week or this month. But make no mistake, The echo is coming. The fruit will arrive. The life you are silently rehearsing each dawn is already forming. And one day, you'll look around and realize it wasn't the big moves that built you. It was the sacred small ones, repeated while the world slept. Let others chase the sun. You will command the dawn. You are no longer like them. You do not rise by accident. You do not begin your day by default. You do not delay when called. You do not wait for proof to act like a leader. You've seen the inner mechanics. You have walked into the silent chambers Hill spoke of. You now know the secret. The morning is the throne, and the one who rises with intention ... wears the crown all day. Let others chase motivation. You move for mission. Let others wait for signs. You become one. Final reflection. The mirror of tomorrow, ask yourself, truly right now, what version of me is echoing forward from today? Will my future look back on this morning as the one that changed everything? If I repeated today's first hour for 10 years, what life would I be living? These are not questions of productivity. These are questions of eternal return. Because what you do each morning is what you're telling time to bring you more of. So what are you telling it? The great secret was never hidden, only ignored. Napoleon Hill didn't invent success. He decoded it. And now you hold the code in your hand. Your wealth is not waiting at the finish line. It's echoing from the first step of every day. And the echo is faithful. You will hear it again.